Welcome
Okay.
back, everybody. I'm here with Taylor Gagliano. I checked on how to say that, and I just said it right. Taylor, how would you describe your like? What is your main style of dance that you choose to dance in?
I feel like it's between two, but they're both pretty technical. I'm a jazz contemporary dancer. So you could say contemporary jazz if we want to morph it into one.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between contemporary and lyrical? I always ask that because it's such a gray area, and I
Oh,
think it's an opinion-based thing.
for me, I feel like lyrical is very attached to certain types of music, where contemporary could be anything. Like when you hear a lyrical song, it's like, oh, like it's like long and soft, and it's a little bit the movement is a little bit longer, like you're reaching and it's dramatic. Contemporary, you could be dancing to hip hop music and then call it contemporary. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. Contemporary is just the weird version of lyrical, I guess. Lyrical is a little bit more technical. That is what I would say.
Cool. And you started dancing at a dance studio at what age?
I started dancing at age 3 at a dance studio. I grew up at the same dance studio my whole life for
What
15 years, so 3 to 18.
what state is that? Or you can what
Uh,
studio?
the studio's actually not open anymore. COVID kind of, but
Oh,
I
that
know.
sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but yeah, I grew up in Orlando, Florida. So I grew up at the same studio, but then was always like I was like that comp kid that would travel and do different conventions and go to like Broadway Dance Center, came to LA a bunch, did all that kind of stuff. So even though I was in one facility, I was training all over.
But Orlando also has like a really good scene.
Orlando is like, yeah, you go to a regionals and it feels like a national competition every single weekend. It's super tight, the competition, and that's why it also made me get better, I think, because I was around so many good studios and so many good dancers all the time.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people, if you don't know what competition is, she's talking about dance competitions. Um, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just said that. Here's what she's talking about. I'll just tell you. I'll mansplain. No, I'm kidding. When did you start competing? Like what
I
age?
started competing. So there was like a junior comp team, which you did like one like baby dance where you just like, you know, shook your bum a little bit, did some chassés across the stage. I did that for 2 years. So it was like age 5 to 7, and then age 8 until 18 was when I was doing like solos, duos, groups, production numbers. So for people who don't know dance, just all the types of ranges of multiple routines with different songs all the time.
I look at kids now because I never thought of how many dances I learned when I was a teenager, and I should go back and figure this out one day. But like, what would you say is the most dances you competed in? Because I've seen kids do like 30, and I'm just like, what?
I didn't do 30, but also I feel like nowadays, like kids are crazy. Kids can do like a million pirouettes and a million jumps and backflips and they're like, so you can get a high gold, you know? But when I was like at my prime at a competition studio, I was doing like 15 routines and I was exhausted. I was like, I can't do any more than this.
It's so expensive too.
So, and I have two siblings too, two sisters who danced with me. So we were like, we did the sister trio. We all did two solos. We were in every single group. We were traveling everywhere. And it wasn't like, oh, one kid was kind of bad. And like all three of us were at the same like elite level, like competing wise. So it was, yeah, I was like, dang, my parents love me. Thank you, mom and dad, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my mom once told us how much money she spent in costumes, and I want to say it was around 10 grand. Oh, I don't know what that button was. That was a fun sound.
Oh,
I had no idea what that was. Yeah, but me and my sister both competed, and that's so much money. Like I when I found that
mm-hmm.
out, I was like, "Wait, why?" I was like, "Why don't you just put me in something out?" Like I didn't and I became a professional dancer, so it wasn't wrong of her because her whole thought was like, "This is what brings you confidence. I want you to continue to do what brings you confidence." Because I had a learning disorder and stuff growing up too. So it was the like she was like, "It's the one thing you were good at," like basically, which is really funny.
Right.
Uh,
It's like we want to make you happier. We want to make you feel good in your skin.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why she did it. And I don't regret, like, I love that I got to do all of that.
Right.
But like when I found out the bill, I was like, what? Why? Buy me a car.
Right? It's like, let's go on a boat instead. Let's do that. Like, but then we'd be spoiled brats, you know? So it's like, it's good. You're learning there's lots of skills that you learn as a dancer and growing up. And
And I will say that there are other sports that are more expensive than dance too. That I like. Soccer is more expensive. There's a lot of sports that are more expensive. It just depends on how much you dive into it. And if you
right.
are a dancer, for those parents whose mouths just dropped, if you're a dancer in the competition world and you win money so that it doesn't cost so much. And back in the day, you won college tuition money, and you still can get scholarships through dance that way too. So it's like any other sport where if you do win, you get money towards coming back, and it's cheaper the following year usually. It depends on the competition as well.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different like like you said, depending on there's like scholarships to go out to like those big dance studios or different conventions or colleges or different intensives over the summer, things like that.
Yeah. What's the age range between you and your siblings?
So we are all born. I have three siblings. One's a boy, so he didn't want to dance. He wanted to play soccer.
Yeah.
That other,
Okay. The more
yeah,
expensive sport. I'm kidding.
right, the more expensive one. So I'm the oldest. Then my next sister is 2 years younger than me, and then my brother and sister are twins, and they're a year and a half younger than her. So we were all born within 4 years of each other.
So were you guys
So
in the same small group? Like I'm trying to think,
yeah.
how did that go? My sister and I dancing together at competition. Woo.
Oh, it was like our dance teacher. They already knew. They're like, because we were definitely like one of the better ones, but they were like, you guys are awful to work with together because all we would do is fight. So they would like on purpose make us do our solo practices together and just like put us in a room, not even with a teacher. They're like, you guys figure it out. It was like kind of good, but also kind of bad because there would be like a correction. Oh, well, I'm not listening to you. You know what I mean? Like the bickering back and forth. But we were all, me and my siblings, all very different in what we were good at. Like I was the convention kid, so anytime we would go to convention, I would like do very, very well. Then my sister under me, she was like that leggy, really slow, really pretty dancer. She was always like the soloist, like really like would win the titles and things like that. And then my sister under that, she was kind of a combination of both, and now she does dance team stuff, and she's actually on her college dance team. So all very different kinds of dancers, which meshed well in a group. But when it came to like actually working together, it was kind of a nightmare sometimes.
I totally get. Yeah, my sister is 6 or 7 years older than me, and we really weren't on the same teams age wise until like large groups, lines, or production, like mostly production. And she was like a senior who had to teach us the combo, and I just remember like, I'm not learning from my sister. What? Are you kidding me?
Right, you're just saying like, oh, they're just so dumb. Like, oh, I can't, and you're
Yeah,
like, no, you actually
your
have to listen to them.
sibling. You know what I mean? Like I saw her at home eating breakfast. She doesn't know what she's doing. Like she totally does. She's a great dance teacher. I'm gonna have her on the podcast one day. We'll hash out all of our family drama here. It'll be great.
Other things,
I
yeah.
asked if she wanted to be on. She goes, I don't know. That's fair. Very fair.
She's
Maybe.
like, I already know.
Maybe. No, she's such a great teacher, so she'd be awesome. And she's owned a studio. Like it'd be great. But teens, I mean, we're teens. We're all dramatic at that time. You're learning how to be a lady. All of those things happen. And this is making me think of something that's super gross. So back in the day, I never had a bathing suit type leotard without tights. Did you compete without tights?
Oh, so okay. That was actually like very transitional while I was at the studio. It was like tan tights the entire time, tan tights. And like my dance teacher was, all dance teachers kind of are very opinionated. And she'd be like, oh, those are awful. We don't like studios without the tights, this, and that. But then like it got to a point when I was in high school that was the cool thing to do. And then she slowly started putting us in no tights. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, but you told us this was dumb. You told us this was bad before. So I had like all of our jazz dancers always were in tights. But like once we got to the contemporary age where we were doing like the weird contemporary, then we started doing no tights kind of thing.
But was it like a bathing suit or did you have shorts on?
Oh, no. We
You know what
never
I'm
did
talking
like
about? Like there's some kids in like little tiny bathing suit bottoms that I'm like, ooh, once you hit your lady time, how do you even think about this?
Yes. I've
Because you're
actually
doing
had
these legs where you're lifting your leg and it's
yep,
just
and
like,
you're just like, ooh,
what? I don't know. I would have had a heart attack.
and I would have felt we always had like shorts, whether they were small shorts or not. We always felt like even now, because I've been teaching a lot during this COVID time, and I've been teaching a lot of soloists. And there's one girl that I like. She's so good, but she shouldn't be wearing little baby short, little baby
There's only one girl that you like?
bottoms.
No, I'm kidding. I know you like
Yeah, I only
just the
want
way you said
right.
it. I'm kidding.
But yeah, she wants to wear these little bathing suit bottoms, and you're just like, ah, but no, like it
Well, I
doesn't
get
look
it.
good on everyone.
It's not even about the look. I understand the because TikTok does it. Two, professional dancers do it. Like the first professional dance gig that I had, they put me in shorts that I was like, this is a belt. Like that's I legit was like, these aren't shorts, this is a belt.
Right.
And you do experience that. I just think as a teenager, and I'm not the person who I don't care if a kid does it. I really don't, because I feel like if your mom saw you do it, your dad saw you do it, and it's been choreographed this way, I'm fine with it. I know that there are a lot of people who genuinely think it's a really bad thing, and I'm not saying that if it continues to go that way, we should like work on it as a team of dancers in the world. But I
Right.
think for myself, I don't look at it as a something predators could find. But I'm also, it's such a great. I've never even talked about this kind of stuff on the show. It's such a weird. I don't know the right way to word it, because it's like, is that kid posting? Like, I don't know. I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. And I don't want to ever shun anybody for feeling whatever they wanted to wear either. It's clothes. You have the right to wear
For
what you
sure.
want to wear. And if it matches the song, it matches the song. But my thought process is like, I can't imagine going through the time changing as a female and it being your first few times of experiencing what we all go through, and then having to do a tilt kick and then being petrified.
Being like, oh no, that would be like my biggest fear. I think I always never was I in super risky things, but when I was always like extra careful, always like maybe putting some things down there,
And I
or like
think that they do
cleaning
wear
or
the little bloomers now. I think a lot of girls do. I've noticed that that's like a thing, because it used to be you couldn't wear any underwear when you danced. It was like a rule in the 90s
yes.
and 80s, or whereas like no underwear because no lines needed to be shown. And
I
then it started
remember
to
that,
pick up,
yeah.
and it was like, no, nude underwear. It's like a special spandexy type thing. It's not regular underwear, but like so that nothing shows, which I am all for. Like I don't want to see anything on anybody
No.
ever, any age. I
Mm-mm.
don't want to see it.
Mm-mm.
I want to enjoy the dance, the performance. Um,
Right.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never gotten. That's like the closest
We got deep.
the show has gotten to some stuff. So okay, so you competed your whole life. You teach at the Edge. Well, it's opening back up again. I heard. I don't know when. But you were teaching at the Edge before COVID.
I was.
And you were teaching what?
So I was teaching. There was like the new kids program there. So I was teaching contemporary. I also started teaching with the kids program. We started with tap. So I started teaching tap, which isn't my like original. Like if you were to ask me what's your style, tap is never my thing. But I do have it in the back of my belt, so I can always throw it out there.
That's smart.
So was teaching tap, then was teaching hip hop for the little ones, and then moved over to contemporary, which is my like preferred style.
What's the age of the little ones when you say little ones?
So they had two different programs. They had like, oh my God, it's been like a year since Edge has been open. Now my brain is, I gotta go back in there. I think it was like 7 to 13 was one age group, and then 13 to 18 was another age group. So they kind of divided it between like the younger ones and
babies, but they were kids, right? Like
they were kids. Yeah.
Okay. And then the Edge has a program, or had, I'm assuming they will again, called the EDGE PAC, which is where like kids go of college age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
did
And
you
I did
you
that.
did that, right? Which is really cool, because you went from being in the program to teaching part of that program, which I think is like a lot of dancers do that, where they teach at their studio, and this is different than just a regular studio, but like where they grow up in their studio and then they start to teach for it. So I guess my first question is, one, what was your experience like joining the EDGE PAC? What is it? What happens? I have no idea.
So I kind of have to go back a little bit, just because that was my goal after high school. When I was growing up, from like
you got it. Sorry, that was long.
I love it. Yes. Yeah, from like literally since I was little, I remember at 10 years old telling my dad, Because my dad's, another backstory. He's an immigrant, like came here for a better life, that whole thing. And he
Where's
was
he
like,
from?
whatever you want. He's from France.
Cool.
So
Un petit peu. Yay. Okay.
but yeah, he's a chef and kind of made his own American dream. So early on, I was taught that like you can have your own American dream. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to have a desk job. You don't have to do this and that. So I remember being 10 years old and going up to him and being like, Papa, I want to move to LA and I want to be a professional dancer. And then he told my mom, and they're like, okay, we're so about it at age 10, like, which is crazy. And they're like, okay, let's figure out how to get there. My mom was researching when I was in high school, and she's like, oh, we found this program called the EDGE. It's like a professional program. You get agents afterwards. Let's just like go to LA and try it out. And I went senior year of spring break. Went to the EDGE.
Senior year
I
of spring
talked to
break?
Bill
Sorry,
Prudich, who is the
just
owner or co-owner of EDGE.
you glitched out for a second. You went senior year?
Yep. So I went my senior year during my spring break to the EDGE so I could have an interview with Bill Prudich, who is the co-owner of the EDGE PAC, and talk to him, take classes, see if it was the vibe that I liked. And I fell in love. And so then that summer, I went and auditioned for it. And what the program is, it offered 10 guys and 10 girls, so 20 people total, the opportunity to take out the EDGE on a scholarship. So 365 days, and we got 3 to 4 classes a day in different styles between like ballet, jazz, tap, contemporary, heels, trying to think, musical theater.
And it felt like, because I used to take classes there, it felt like the EDGE PAC kids, they always put you in classes that were not your main style.
Oh, yes. So I remember my first month, I was so annoyed because I was like, I'm not in any classes that I like. I don't have, well, I liked them. Once I was in them, I ended up liking them, but I was like, this is not my style. I don't think I had contemporary at all my entire year that I was there.
But could you take it outside, like if you had extra time?
So at first, the answer was no, but then we were like begging him for certain classes because they had great choreographers, great LA people come in all the time. And he'd be like, okay, you guys can take this instead of this class, or you guys can take this on top of if you wanted. But on top of our like normal classes that like you would take at EDGE, that anyone could take, we had Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we had 2.5 hours of just our scholarship group classes. So they would bring in like singing coaches and acting coaches and different styles of dance that we necessarily wouldn't get, things like that. So it was an intense program because it was 365 days, like we had the whole year. We didn't have like a summer break.
I didn't realize that you guys got to like do class. I mean, I figured you did some classes outside, but I didn't realize it was like so much because you see the scholarship kids and how bonded they are. They all seem very like friendly and it's not just because they're taking classes, it's because they're taking 365 times 4 classes. Like that's a lot of time to spend with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I thought of it as kind of like your sorority or your fraternity. Like that was the EDGE scholarship was that of LA.
Did you guys live together?
No. So my living situation was kind of funny. At the audition, I met some girls, and all of us were like, "Hey, let's move in together." So the people I ended up living with 4 other girls. Me and one other one was actually on the program. 3 of them didn't make it on the program. So it was a little.
Oh, that's so sweet that they still live with you.
A little dramatic because, yeah, they still live with us, but it was like, you know how 18-year-old girls can be, I'm sure. But it was a little, basically 2 people ended up moving out at one point in the lease. So, but yeah, they didn't provide us with any,
you picked where you wanted to live, how far away, how much you wanted to spend on that stuff, which is dramatically different in Los Angeles. And as far as the roommate things going, I think it's really cool that those girls stayed in with their pack of like, we'll move in together, whether or not they got in accepted, because like there's so many auditions. I lived in Florida for a time and I had to drive like 4 hours to Miami for like some auditions, and we would go as a bunch of girls and then everyone would have to wait for you to finish all of the rounds. And then it would be a really quiet drive back when only one of you was left. You know what I mean? Like, It's just
Yeah, I've done that before where you like go to an audition with someone, like you're like, oh yeah, let's ride together. And then you're like, oh, one of us made it, one of us didn't. And you're just like, you're, I feel like you get to a point where you actually end up being happy for that person. But when you're like really young and like really hungry for it, you're just like salty about it. You're like, that was my job, you know? Or like, that's,
who didn't get it.
yes.
You suck.
Yes.
No. That's not good. I mean, I have not gotten jobs, but those ones I went by myself. So I've never had to wait for somebody. Let me put it that way. Or if I went, we both got it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like
there was never like a weird car ride for you.
It was a weird car
on
ride,
your
but
end.
the other way around, where I was like, oh,
yeah,
I don't want to glow. And I never did. Hopefully, if someone's listening, I did tell me it's fine. I probably was terrible for a time there. I try not to.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard. Yeah. So then you did this whole EDGE program where you got to do all these other styles. What was the number one style that was the most difficult for you to learn there? Like that was the most opposite of what you were trained in, I guess.
I would say probably hip hop. Not that I didn't train in it, but I think hip hop in every region that you go is a little bit different. Like New York hip hop is different than LA hip hop. And even like you can dissect it with like there's house and there's like breaking and then there's different styles. Like there's Havoc, who is like very old school hip hop, and I was not used to that at all. I know you do. I know you do.
Oh, he was on here. He was on the podcast. I love Havoc's classes because it's old school, and I enjoy an old school kind of hip hop. But then also Sam Allen was on here, and he's way younger and does like not TikTok, but there is like more pop, like a whoa or whatever is like in
right, like
and you're like, okay,
I can a more trendy style, you could say. Yeah, so I feel like hip hop was just probably my least the least tailored style, but I'm glad that I was able to do everything because it made me way more of a well-rounded dancer than when I started the program.
Well, and for commercial work, you need to have some hip hop. It doesn't need to be amazing, but you can't just be a contemporary dancer and think you're going to get any commercial work.
Oh, absolutely not. Honestly, the most of the work is hip hop and jazz.
It's like a watered down hip hop or like like a jazz hip hop, a funk, if you would.
A jazz funk, yeah.
Yeah, that's the majority of the things in Los Angeles, specifically. So you did the whole program, and then eventually you got to take the classes you liked, and not that you didn't like the others. I know you did. What is there? There's like a big show at the end, right?
Right. So that's the whole, you do your whole year, you train your whole year, and then you have a couple of choreographers that set pieces, and then we do a 3-day showcase with like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I believe. Maybe it was just Saturday and Sunday. But it's like this big showcase, all the LA agents, they come and they watch. And it's this big deal because your whole family gets to come see, all the friends, everyone from LA, you would hope, comes. And I think when I went, it was pretty much full at capacity. So we did that, and then at the end afterwards we had private agency auditions with every agency in LA. I think we had like Block, MSA, TA, and then MSA, and then there was one called S Agency. Oh, I glitched again.
Sorry, that's why whenever I repeat you, it's just to clarify. So it was MSA, Block,
Go to
Clear,
MTA, Clear. Yes, we had Clear, and then we had also an agency called the S Agency.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it exists anymore, but we had a bunch of those, and I remember.
What are those auditions like? So, like, let's say I never had to audition for a dance agent, and I know that it's also the timing of when I became a dancer. I was already making money when I looked for an agent, so it was them just getting free money, and then it moved forward where I got auditions. Because my agent was an acting agent that got me dance jobs in the beginning. I didn't have a dance agent.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I will say, as a dancer, I don't know which way to go. I think it's different for each person. But like when I was younger, it made more sense to be with an acting agent because when they did have a dance job, you knew they were sending you. Versus like if you're in an agency and there's 100 girls that look like you, they're not gonna get that many time slots. So you got to pick what agent works for you.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. But yeah, those auditions were a little eye-opening for me, and it's kind of a sad, I mean, not a sad story, it's happy now, but like I was the only person on our whole scholarship program that did not get asked by any of the agencies to get
Oh,
signed.
I can see that
Yeah.
as being a sad moment. Yeah, that's not, you
And
can say that.
oh,
I would, yeah, that's fair.
no,
That's the
it
longest
was
car ride
really
ever.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like you did this whole year, and I was like, I'm a very hard, like I was a hard worker. I was always, I was one of the only kids who like didn't take days off, and I was always like, I'm there, I'm there, I'm there. Um, but you can't help if you're a 5'1" white girl and they're looking for this, or like a
Anything
five
other
foot
than that,
five,
right?
anything
Yeah.
that, yeah. Um, and
And that's
yeah, like
part of the
one,
industry people don't realize. It's a lot of looks because it's television, commercial, and costumes that are already made for Universal or whatever show you're trying to go into. Um, yeah, height matters. If they already have someone who already looks your type, like I was just saying before, I went with an acting agent because I didn't need to be competing with people within my own agency. And so them not picking you was to prevent them from doing that one thing that would have annoyed me.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm like, at the moment, it was the most devastating. Like I wanted to move back home, and I was like, this is awful. I can't believe I wasted my whole year. Like that was like the 18-year-old, like,
Yeah.
cycling through that. And then I was so happy that my mom was in town when this happened. She was like, she doesn't let me cry in the sense that she doesn't let me get down on myself and let me spiral. She's like, okay, so like, what are you going to do about it? If this is like, if you're upset about this, what can you do to change it? So I remember calling I remember calling Go To because I was like, I really liked them. I wanted them to pick me, but they didn't. So I called them and I said, hey, are you sure? Like, can we just try for an interview? So like, yeah, for sure, we can talk.
Wait, you
So I
just called
remember,
the lobby office, like,
yeah,
this is such good info for people who don't get agents because
yeah,
no, this is like, there's so many people who listen out there who try once and fail, and then they don't even try again. They're just like, that was it. I did my one shot. Bye. Because doors get slammed in your face in the entertainment business in many different ways. And I think
mm-hmm.
sometimes people think dance is excluded from that, but no, 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 no.
Oh, no, no, no. You get 95% no's and maybe 5% yeses. So yeah, I remember calling and they're like, yeah, like we can't see you this week, but we can fit you in next week. And in my mind, I was like, oh, that's so soon. Sure. So I go, and then after the interview, they're like, oh my gosh, you have so much personality. We're like, you have so much more than what the show offered you or what our audition offered you. Um, we for sure want to sign you. So they sent me, they I signed with them, and then literally 2 weeks later, it's crazy. They called me and they're like, hey, they're doing this Disney commercial. You're perfect for it. Can you go to the director's house right now? Went to the director's house and auditioned in the director's house. Me
Which
and one
is
other girl.
usually a no because that sounds creepy. But if your
No,
agent's
but
saying to do it, it's okay.
she was a female. It was like
Well,
they're
and
like,
also
hey,
your
we don't.
agency is a really reputable agency, so they wouldn't send you into
Yeah,
a bad situation. It's if you sign with Debbie Doolittle's dance, not dance, like agency of something. You know what I mean? Sorry if there's ever somebody named Debbie Doolittle out there, but Debbie Doolittle owns an agency and tells you to go to somebody's house. You're like, no, like they know who this person is, so they know that it's safe. Yeah. So you go audition.
so I go audition, and it was with another girl from my scholarship year. We both show up and we're like, are we supposed to be here? We thought we were actually auditioning against each other at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get the director like, yeah, I'll go and put on this song and you guys just dance.
Say
Like,
that again.
okay.
You glitched
So
again.
we go
Say
and
that
we
again.
dance. She's like, okay, great.
You thought you
Um,
were competing against each other, but then
so we thought we were competing against each other. So we get into her house and she's like, oh, I'm just gonna put the music on and you two just dance for me. Just dance really fun. Like, okay. So we're like just like improving, dancing to like a Disney Channel song. And then she's like, okay, you two are perfect. I get a call from my agent that night and they're like, okay, they're booking you. And her name's Gaia. She was also, again, on my scholarship year. And we were chosen, me and her, to be this dancer for this dance along video for this movie called The Descendants. Like, you know how like
Oh,
in
you know
High
this
School
little
Musical they
movie
did like
called
those
The
like dance along
Descendant.
videos?
That was such a big movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. So yeah, we ended up like it was just really sad that I didn't get this. But if I wouldn't have called and I wouldn't have gotten in there and then shown my face and like had to prove to them, they probably wouldn't have called me 2 weeks later to be like, oh, she'd be perfect for this Disney job. Oh, look, she got this Disney job. And I ended up getting the first job out of everyone on my scholarship year, even though I was the only one that didn't get offered at first.
And then the amazing thing to that is like, okay, so one, you got your no, and your mom gave you amazing advice. Thank you, mom. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what can you do about it? Like, are you quitting or are you going to try to do something about it? Right? You did something about it. It wasn't overly annoying. You didn't call them every day at 8 a.m. You called them once and they said yes.
Right.
Then you met with them, and they probably checked in on your like your work ethics with the people who own the Edge. Like they probably did do like a quick background check in that week that was like, okay, we didn't pick her, but is she a great worker? And they were probably like, yeah, she's never left for a year. Like she's there every day. Da 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 da. So then maybe you didn't stand out and that the choreographers didn't pick you in a certain way, or maybe it just wasn't showing your specific personality. And then you got this interview, and I can't stress to dancers this enough. You have to have a personality. You can't just be a good dancer. Like there's so much talent out there, so much talent. Like whatever you can do, someone else can do that too. I guarantee you. And look like you. So it's like there's always somebody who can do the same thing you can do. So you have to have something, and it's got to be your personality because that's what people meet first.
Yep. It's that, and also it's about who you know half the time
Mhm.
too. It's not what you know, but who you know is literally what my parents have ingrained in my brain as well. They're like, well, if you're doing this, if no one knows you, how are they going to see it? So you have to be present in some sort of way. Again, like you said, not annoying about it, but just you have to just be authentic and be yourself, and hopefully people will like that.
Hooray. Okay, so you do the Descendants thing, which also usually people don't book their first job through the agent. So then they were like, yeah, great booking. Glad she called back. Which is awesome for them too. And then do you just go out on a ton of auditions? Like how does the audition scene work for you? However many years ago that was.
So I definitely feel like back in the day, so what is that? 7 years ago. 7 years ago is when I first moved out late. So 6 years ago when I had my agency. Um, that on a lot more auditions, just because your agency is trying to figure out what does this person book, what is good for them.
Mhm.
And also there was more auditions actually happening than present day now. So I was going on quite a lot of auditions, but they were a lot of like those cattle call auditions. So if people don't know what cattle call auditions, it's like everyone gets this audition in the LA dance scene. So you'll show up and there'll be like 400 people there, and they're trying to just like weed them out. Or there was a ton of those auditions that I went to that I'm sure you've been to those where they just line you up and they just go, thank you, next, thank you, next, just based off of what you look like.
Which is
And
good because just don't waste your time. Yeah.
right, it's like I liked it, but also it's like you could have just sent in our headshots
Oh,
and seen
100%.
it
But I will
too.
tell you, I've worked on the casting end of things. No one looks like their photo. Nobody.
That is
And that's
true.
a big thing. Like, especially now with all of the filters and stuff people can do to their photos, I think a good photo is something that shows your personality and has no airbrush. Like, don't airbrush it because I even to this day won't let someone do my makeup on headshots because I'm like, no, I need to be able to walk in looking like me. Um,
Mhm.
because the number one thing people call agents about is people don't look like their headshots. Now, like right now, for instance, I do have an agent still. I'm not trying to be a dancer. This is not a dance related thing. But in general, my agent, I do comedy now, was like, hey, is your hair still the same? And I was like, not even close. It was red when we went into COVID, and then I wasn't able to get my hair done. So now it's blonde. And you know what? I don't hate it. So this is where it's going to stay.
Yes.
I was born a blonde. It's just going to be like this for a minute. And then I just literally sent in a photo that like is me, right?
Like a selfie.
Not my husband like took it, but it wasn't like
Oh, okay.
it was on an iPhone. It wasn't like a fancy photo. But then they're just
Right.
using that to be like, here's what she really looks like. And a lot
I've
of
actually
casting is asking for that now too. It's like a real photo of you.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I've heard that a lot of people are just now looking at Instagrams now. Like people, like they're every day, like seeing what they look like day to day if they post them or not. Because I've had a meeting with my agent. They're like, yeah, just keep updated what you actually look like on your Instagram. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like people are looking at that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. That scares me a little
Hmm.
bit. I mean, also it's such a different dance world where you have to have an Instagram and keep up with it and focus on it, and that's a lot.
It's it's a career in itself, social media, I think. And
It totally is.
you know what? If I don't get jobs off of that, that's okay. It wasn't meant to be because it's not. I don't want to make my life my phone and my Instagram and my this and that.
Oh, well, I don't think, yeah, I think that the numbers thing that people always say is like, oh, if you have millions of followers, you get more jobs. Yeah, that's true. Because if you do post one thing, then other people are seeing it. But if you don't have that many at all, it doesn't put you lower than if somebody was 20,000. It's like the same ball game.
Yes, I was gonna say, yeah, absolutely. There's like those two, who are those Instagram, or no, those TikTok famous dancers. There's like two of them that
Mhm.
are like blew up. They have like 40 million. That is a different caliber than someone who's like you said, like a 20,000 versus like a 5,000. That's the same.
I think
Those
it's
people.
Charlie, right?
Yes,
She's a
Charlie.
competitive dancer. Yeah, she was. And she, was a great dancer as well. And then just got famous on TikTok, but actually could hold her own weight in the real dance world, which was
Right,
nice. Instead of just being TikTok. You know what I mean? Like she was actually a trained dancer who knew what she was doing. Um,
right.
but yeah, she hit it and great. Take it to the
Yeah, get all those ads, go into acting, do all the things. Like that's what everyone strives for, that. Like for one thing to get them to the next level. So if it's TikTok, work, get there.
what is like your next level? What do you want to?
So my biggest thing is that I just want to be a touring dancer, and I've luckily been able to do that the last since 2018. And COVID actually, everything happens for a reason, but I was supposed to be touring in like 4 different continents in 2020. I was so excited to do it. I normally tour for an artist named Lindsey Stirling. I was so pumped to do it, but then COVID canceled all that. No more concerts. But luckily, I just got the email last week that we're gonna go back on tour this summer.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, I mean it's gonna
Yeah.
be fun time for touring too. It's gonna be
Hmm.
uh,
Oh yeah, because everyone just wants to get out and go to concerts or perform at concerts, and everyone. It's cool to be one of the first shows that are coming back out on tour.
yeah, that'll be a blast. And I think that the cool thing about that is, so you're teaching on Zoom or you're teaching, and I think that teaching dance is such a good skill set to have when you want to be a dancer because COVID hits and now how do you make money? You had another job, which is in the same field. So you're still technically exercising. It depends. Some teachers just sit, but in general, you're still doing stuff. You know what I
I'm
mean?
exercising. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. What do you think is the biggest thing that I think there's a bridge between a dancer and a teacher, right? Like you can be a phenomenal dancer and not know how to break it down to teach a student. What do you think is something that you're learning along the way as to be like a good teacher?
I think one thing that I've really realized this year, because I've like you said, during this COVID year, I've really honed in on teaching, is we have to remember that these kids aren't robots. Kids are growing up, they're teenagers, and everything, they're like sponges. Everything that we tell them, they soak it up. So it could be the difference between yelling at them, telling them to do something, or maybe positive reinforcement, and then they get it that way. I've learned that a lot of kids, especially now during COVID, a lot of kids have anxiety, and a lot of kids are feeling the weight of the world. I remember when I was 10, 11, 12, I don't remember who was the president during the time. I don't remember what was going on in the news. I don't remember any of that. But all these kids are very aware. And if I can bring in a little bit of sunshine to their day and I can make them feel good about, like, make them feel positive when it comes to dancing rather than make them feel negative about it, I think that's really important. So, and a lot of teachers aren't necessarily doing that. A lot of teachers aren't taking into account that the time period is a little weird and we need to be a little bit softer and a little bit more gentle to this generation and give them, not give it to them easy, but just let them learn in a better environment, or let them learn in a way that makes them feel good. Because at the end of the day, we do dance because we love dance, you know?
Yeah, in the beginning, dance used to be you did this wrong, shouting, 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 and now there's a wave of it changing to um, if it was you and me in a class, the teacher would be like, Taylor, I really like the way you lengthen that leg, and knowing that I would be like, oh crap, I gotta stretch my leg, and
Right,
then like by complimenting the kid near the other kid, it makes that kid now there are all humans in the world and there are those kids that will not absorb it that way and then you change your tactic, right? You're just
right.
saying make your first tactic the positive one instead of
Exactly.
going straight to the negative. And I can totally agree with that, especially now in COVID, like letting them have more games than they're used to in a dance class because they're just on computers all day long. And well, it also depends on
Hmm.
the state. California is still a lot of kids are on computers still. Um,
Right.
yeah, yeah, very cool. So I have 5 questions that I ask everybody on the show.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is, who is your favorite singer to dance to right now?
Ooh, like for me personally, just to
Mhm,
like, okay, my favorite singer to dance to is Chelsea Cutler. She is a little bit of an indie artist,
mhm.
but I always like to dance to what the music I'm listening to is at the moment because I feel like dance and music is very connected, and you like your emotions, and you can do some really great contemporary moves to that. So Chelsea Cutler, that's my answer.
Very, very cool. What is your favorite
Mm.
music video of all time?
Oh, oh wow. Okay, that was easy. Black and White by Michael Jackson. That's as a kid was my favorite one to watch. So that's it.
Uh, a lot of people pick that. Favorite after show
Right.
food?
Mm, my favorite after show food. I'm such a sweet person, and I also love coffee. So, and you can't really drink coffee at night, so I always do coffee ice cream. That's like my go-to.
Oh, does it have caffeine in it?
I don't know, but I love the taste of coffee.
Me too.
Even if it didn't have caffeine, I'm like, whatever. I'll that's what I crave every morning when I wake up. So anytime that I can eat something, it's coffee flavored.
I am a huge Starbucks fan, and I know a
Same.
lot
It's
of
really bad.
people are like, what about like someone will direct me to another coffee place and I will be like, no, I do not want to try their coffee. I know what they are going because I think with Starbucks the cool thing is that they filter their water everywhere. So you're
Mhm.
automatically getting the same product every time. And so that's why I like it. And because I travel every week to a different place, I want the same thing. And different states have different, like I don't like milk, I like soy milk. Oh, and a lot of places don't have that. I'm such a diva.
Right.
Uh, but like, and I don't even like the Starbucks in hotels because I'm like, that's not real. Like, I'm an
Yes, or
snob.
like the grocery store ones. I'm like, ooh, I don't
No,
know. Like
no,
when you put it in your maps
I
and you
need it
go
in
there and you're like,
app. If it's in not in the app, I'm not going. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's bad. I should be
Same.
better, but I'm not. What's the most difficult dance trick you ever had to learn? Like, what was the hardest thing for you to learn growing up?
Mm, the hardest thing for me to learn was probably a front aerial walkover. So that's basically a walkover with no hands. I remember
That's a
my
front
acro
aerial. I always called it a kickover. I've heard
a
this
kickover.
multiple. Yeah. So like to me, an aerial is like a cartwheel with no hands. And then the front aerial, I guess it makes sense that that's the same thing, but in my mind, a front aerial is just like an aerial that's going towards the audience. Like it's not. Because to me, it's a kickover because you're kicking over your body. But again, different places call it different things. But yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
yeah, I couldn't do that. That's a hard
Yeah. I
learn.
It was hard. I loved it, but then I remember once I turned 18, I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. Like once I had to stop doing it for competition, I'm like, "Mwah. I'm not throwing this out at auditions.
Uh-huh. Do you do any acro chicks at auditions?
Aerials are probably the most that I'll throw in. But like I was like an acro kid, so I have like my walkovers, my back walkovers, things like that. But as you get a little older, it gets a little cracky. So you're like, oh, well, I gotta be real warmed for that.
That's fair. Very fair. If you
Yeah.
had to have another job outside of the entertainment business, what would it be?
Ooh, that is so easy. I'd be a food critic or a because I'm such a foodie. I could eat every, I just love food.
Well, your dad was a
My
chef. Did
favorite
you
show
say food critic and chef and or chef?
or like, those people on cooking shows who are like the judges for them,
Oh,
like
that's
who
still a
eat the
food
food.
critic. That's just a food
Yeah,
critic who is on TV,
who's
right?
on TV. Then that would
The
be it.
entertainment
Yeah.
business, though, I'll say that doesn't count because that's still on TV. So, like a
Okay.
food critic, like a person who goes to a restaurant and is like, "Don't ever eat here. They didn't say hello to me."
Yes. Yes.
Do you ever do that with your dad's stuff? Or are you like, "No, this is bad"?
Oh no, no. I love my dad's food. His food is really good.
What restaurant does he own a restaurant or
He
cook?
owns two restaurants in like the Orlando Winter Park area,
Well,
so
people from
Central
Orlando
Florida.
listen to this. What restaurants? Shout them out.
Shea Vincent is one of them, and then Hannibal's is the other. They're right next to each other. One is a French, like an upscale French restaurant, and the other is a jazz lounge.
I love that they're right next to each other. That made his life very easy to be like, yes, yes.
Yes, yes. It's like I can check on both of them. I can cook for both of them. We're good.
That's great. Very, very cool. Next time I'm in Orlando, I'm definitely going to head that way.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so all of these different styles of dance that you've done, I really like that you have this story of like not getting it and then getting it. Because I think so many people have to experience that to continue to move on as a dancer, which is awesome. What would you say is like something that you would teach kids about like who want to become dancers when they grow up? Like what's something that you would recommend they do if they're like 12 or 13 right now?
I would probably say just do as much as you can. Learn as many styles from as many different people as you can and never burn a bridge, even if you think that it's that style is dumb, or like, oh, I'm not good at that, or oh, I'm only a contemporary dancer, or oh, I'm only a hip hop dancer. You never know when that hip hop choreographer is going to hire you for a jazz show or for a this or for a that. And you don't want to throw something away or you want to be able to openly do every style to get any sort of job that you can and make as many connections with as many people. Because I think, like we were talking about it before, the social aspect is really important. So if you can connect with, a hip hop dancer or a contemporary dancer or a ballet dancer, you can connect with all the different scenes, then you can in return get more connections and more feet in the door, feet in the door. How would you say
All of
that?
the feats. I don't know.
All of the feet. I don't know. That's a weird one. But
that reminds me, so I'm a hip hop dancer. I grew up as a tap dancer. And by I mean in the past still. But when I was like 18, I was on at a dance convention tour where I was assisting. I forget who it was. It was either a tap dancer or a hip hop dancer. And I never did contemporary or lyrical because I was not that kid. Like I took those classes ballet growing up, but it was just not my thing. And this chick had this contemporary class. Her name was Susie something. I could not remember her last name. And I was in the teacher's class because it was a convention. So they have them separated by levels and ages, usually at conventions. And I was in the back because I always love to dance in the back at conventions because there's more space and I'm not there. Especially in that class, I wasn't there to be noticed. I was like, I'm taking this class for me and for me alone. And I got so into her dance that I didn't realize she quietly had everybody stop and watch me. And by the time I finished, everyone was just watching. And I was mortified. But also it was such a beautiful moment where she was like, I've only seen you been doing hip because you're this person's, you're a beautiful dancer. And I was just like, whoa. It opened, no one had ever complimented me. And I guess this goes back to the how you get more with kindness and when teaching and inspiring children.
Mm-hmm.
No one had ever made me feel like I could do it until I took her class. And it was just like a weird, beautiful moment for myself to be like, oh, I love doing this. I still never wanted to do it for a career. But like it was an eye-opening moment to be like, oh, you can do more than just what everyone identifies you as in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because just because you're good at that doesn't mean that you can't do other things. I feel like we as dancers put ourselves in boxes all the time. And it's like a normal human being wouldn't be like, oh, you are a jazz dancer. Oh, you are a hip hop dancer. Like a normal person would be like, oh, you're just a dancer. So like, why do we as dancers put ourselves in a box,
Yeah. Because competed and you're used to winning in a
Right.
certain style, and that is your style that wins, and winning is whatever.
And winning is everything. And when it's like winning is not everything at the end of the day.
No, most people who don't win competitions, like they're usually in the top 10 ish, but those who don't like win tend to be the kids who grow up to be dancers. Statistically, I'm from what I've witnessed over my time. There are definitely people who I think that's changing, where the people who are in first and second are actually trying to be dancers now. But for a time there, it was like all the first, second, and thirds got burnt out from how hard they were working, that by the time they became adults to do it as a business, they were over it. Which kids get burned out. I mean, if you start your career of course you're going to get burnt out earlier.
Right.
You want to be a contemporary dancer or are a contemporary dancer. What is the career in a contemporary? Like, what is that? What is the career? What are their options?
So they're actually grown a lot since when I first started, because I remember when I first turned 18, I remember Bill Prudich, the co-owner of EDGE, he'd be like, there's nothing in contemporary. You guys don't, he's such a
You glitched as soon as you said he's such a,
dancer.
you said he's such a, and then it glitched. He's such a, I could fill
He's
in.
such an old, no, I love you, Bill. But he's such an old school jazz teacher, jazz dancer. And he grew up in that era that jazz was everything. And like he was Mandy Moore's first opportunity in teaching. You know what I mean? And she's a huge jazz choreographer now. But now, and back then, when I say back then, 5 or 6 years ago, I feel like contemporary only got you to contemporary companies, whether it was in the US, Canada, or in Europe, like, but those were small and maybe not the most money was behind it. But now there's a lot of, I feel like Ryan Heffington can think, we can all, us as contemporary dancers can thank Ryan Heffington, who's a big contemporary, for kind of making it more TV. And because now contemporary is in music videos, it's on big stages. Like if you look at Lorde, her whole tour, I think it was a couple years ago, was choreographed by Andrew Winghart, and that was all contemporary. The tour that I'm on is all pretty much contemporary. It's kind of getting to these A-list celebrities who are performing, and it's going on to TV and things like that. So contemporary is actually becoming, I don't
Commercialized.
want to say a new jazz, but it's very commercialized now.
Which is great. And do you think that's because like Lorde, like her music is, that style of music is becoming popular? Because it used to only be pop music. Therefore, you could only dance to a certain way to that music, right?
I totally think it has to do with the music. Like as times change, music changes, and dance is connected to music. So if the music changes, the dance has to change along with it.
That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, before we leave, is there anything that you want to say to the world or to anybody or anything?
I just want to say thank you for having me. This has been super fun. If you're out there and you're listening and you want to start dancing, please start dancing. It doesn't matter who you are, you will always get better. And just the love going, keep the dance going, all that.
And I totally forgot to ask you, so you teach classes on Zoom, right? Can anyone take those classes?
So I was teaching classes on Zoom pre-COVID, but then I started teaching at a dance studio. But now I'm not really. I just moved back to LA actually like 2 days ago.
Oh, welcome.
Because I was in Florida. I was in Florida this whole time. But yeah, I'm not currently teaching any Zoom classes, but I'm always open for like privates and things like that. If like people want to follow me on Instagram, I can always do them that way.
What's your Instagram? I will put it in the bio thing, but what is your Instagram?
My Instagram is Taylor, Tayllor, and then Gagliano. So just Taylor Gagliano, just my name.
Yay. And then you guys can see her realness like the agents want.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for listening. We will be back again next Friday. Have a great week.